Do you enjoy Sherlock Holmes? Do you did you enjoy Sherlock, the TV series with Benedict Cumberbatch? Did you enjoy Elementary? Did you did you like the movies? Especially like the recent Robert Downey Jr. ones. Did you read all the books? Are you just a big Sherlock fan? Did you even sort of give Holmes and Watson a little bit of a pass because you were like, you know what? It's still about Sherlock Holmes, and that's how much I love Sherlock Holmes. Well, then you might hate Watson, the new CBS drama, which is baffling. Baffling. This is what happens when we don't have pilot season anymore, is that high concept shows that look cool on paper end up getting series orders. And now we have Watson, starring Morris Chestnut as Dr. John Watson. It's got audio description on Paramount Plus. It also probably airs with audio description on CBS. And I kind of spent the whole pilot waiting for another shoe to drop because I was like, this can't be it. This can't be. What is this? Like, this whole thing is one of the most profoundly stupid things I've seen in a long time. This is this and Happy's Place are the two worst pilots I've seen, I think, in years, in terms of setup, in terms of heavy exposition to the audience, in terms of there are scenes in this that are so fundamentally terrible. I would cancel the show after one episode. Like, I wouldn't have passed this pilot on. If I was at CBS and somebody showed me this pilot, I would have been like, I love Morris Chestnut, but no. So the show starts off with, first of all, I'm sort of like baffled as to what time period we're in. I thought we were going to like time travel and John Watson was going to suddenly wake up no, I guess Sherlock lives now. And this whole, like, all the Sherlock stuff happens now. Um, and, so there's some weird fight that Holmes is having with Moriarty. And, Watson's trying to help him and save him. And then they all go over a waterfall and Watson wakes up and he's the only one alive. And some other, I guess, extraneous Sherlock Holmes character from a book that I never read shows up to tell Watson, guess what? You're the only one that survived. 3 people went over the waterfall, 1 survived. The good news! Holmes was rich, and he's funding a clinic. So Watson gets to do his doctoral work, but then we cut to Pittsburgh. So, in case you're wondering, why is Morris Chestnut, an actor with no British accent, playing John Watson? He'll explain it eventually. But then now we're at a hospital in Pittsburgh. Current, modern Pittsburgh. And John Watson just walks in like a normal person. I'm like, no, not time travel. He doesn't. I was thinking maybe he has some sort of like a weird disorder where he believes he's John Watson, but he's not really John Watson. And like nobody else believes him, and he's had all these memories of Sherlock Holmes, but it's not. No, they don't go there. No, he's just John Watson in a modern day. So he walks into a hospital, and you get exposition that'll eventually reveal to you that he works with his ex-wife, who he left to go chase after adventures in London with Holmes, and they have a strained relationship now. He explains this in a really long exposition to a patient where he tells her all of his personal shit, even though he has a borderline personality disorder, which you learn when one of his team, he's sort of like House. He has like a team of people that help him diagnose things. One of his team is trying to diagnose him and has like this book on borderline personality disorder. And it's, I can't even with the show. Everything is handed to you heavy-handedly. He has a conversation with his wife early on, his ex-wife, and they're starting this new case. Doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what the new case is. And she starts telling him, and he's like, "No, stop. I like to gather all the information myself so that I can make my own informed opinion." I'm like, okay, she's your ex-wife. Shouldn't she know that? Isn't that the kind of question that you have an intern do? Not the person that you were married to and should know you most intimately in the entire fucking world? Like, they're not even thinking the exposition through. They just have to give you exposition, and they're not. This is almost insulting to the audience because it just is like, well, the audience won't care. They're expecting exposition. And I'm like, no, I'm expecting a show that answers the question, why was So Help Me Todd uh, canceled? Why was East New York canceled? Why were better shows canceled so that we could get here? That's what I'm curious about. Because this is not that. Morris Chestnut feels way out of his depth. I don't know what he's playing here. Um, he was that detective on the Fox show for a while. I forget the name of the show, but that show was fine. Here, I don't know what he's trying to do with Watson. It's not playing well for him. He's trying to be like, aha, I'm smarter than you. And I'm like, you're not that good of an actor to be able to play this role, dude. Um, it just doesn't lean into him. It's the kind of role. And the funny thing is, I watched on the same day, I watched Paradise with Sterling K. Brown, and I was like, Sterling could do that role. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something about Sterling where he could play that role. He could play John Watson. Morris Chestnut doesn't have the emotional depth to be able to play this character or anything. There's nothing in his resume that would suggest to you, yes, he should play the smartest doctor that ever was, the assistant to Sherlock Holmes, in some weird modern Sherlock story where he's got a British dude that follows him around too, and is going to continue to follow him around. We have a woman who I am convinced this is not her accent. She's doing the worst Texan accent I think I've ever heard. It sounds like she watched Gone with the Wind and then just went with it and just was like, I think I kind of have an idea with it. And they have this character, you find out that the reason why, because he's interested in people, he picked her because she was born poor and Asian somewhere over there in Asia, some Asian country, and was adopted by a rich Texan family. So he's interested in like how that works out for her. I'm like, what? So no, she has one of the worst accents. I think they just couldn't find somebody who was Asian American and had a Southern accent, because this poor girl cannot do one to save her life. Uh, it is such a bad accent. It's the worst accent I think I've heard on television. There's no way that's her real voice. Um, I don't know. I hated everything about the show. I was mad at it for existing. I was like, you mean I have to wait for new episodes of Tracker so this thing can play out? I was just, everything about the show just doesn't work. And it could have, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there are choices that you can make that are more interesting than this, but every single time somebody has to give you exposition, it's always in the dumbest way possible. They're always telling something to somebody who should already know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're always talking to somebody about something, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, shouldn't that person know that? This is all done for the purpose of the audience. And that was what I hated about Happy's Place, is it did the same thing. It was like, it's giving me exposition, but it can't figure out how to do it. It can't figure out how to get to its premise without doing it in the most clunky way possible. To be fair, so did Shifting Gears. Shifting Gears' pilot was not great. The show has picked up a little bit since then, but I do not have high hopes for Watson being able to figure out what the fuck it's doing as a show, as a cast. I don't like Morris Chestnut in this role, and I can be a fan of an actor without thinking that they need to like win awards for acting. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are plenty of actors that I'm fans of that I'm like, just stay in your lane and you're fine. And Rosewood. I knew I wouldn't think of the name of the show. I like that show. He was good in that show. He was charismatic. It leaned into him. He really is miscast here. This is not him. This doesn't feel like any role that Morris Chestnut has ever done before. He's abrasive. He's unlikable. He's um I don't know. It's such a weird casting choice to put him in this role. Um it'd be like if I told you he almost played House. You'd be like, "What?" Like, could you see him as House? You know? No, of course not. He just doesn't have that personality. He's a much more genial person than that. He's likable. Um, he's suave. He's all the other things that this character is not. He's totally cast against type, and it doesn't work. He never feels like the character that he's supposed to be, and the show written around him is awful. It's one of the worst pilots I've seen in a long time, and an answer as to why we should have pilot season and why because networks fund cheaper shows. They do. Netflix will throw money at content creators and they will order a full 10 episode season of something and give it $100 million because somebody's behind it, or it's based on a book series or something. Like they make these budget shows with less writers. They're supposed to be, procedural style. It just doesn't work. This is not worth your time. This is not a good show. This is an awful pilot. Yeah, I can't say enough about how much I hated Watson. I think the audio description was good. Was fine, but other than that, like, I'm not watching this again. So I've canceled this in my brain. I would have, but this was a slog to get through. And there's nothing that makes me want to come back for more. Not a single damn. They tried to loop in at the end of the episode with this like, ooh, Moriarty's still alive, and I'm like, I don't even care. Sherlock could be alive. I really don't care. Because the writers are who they are, and they're just going to keep moving this show in a direction that sucks. So, Matlock was clever. This is not. I'm going to give Watson a D. Yeah, I think it's easily one of the worst pilots I've seen in a while. So, I won't be talking about that again. But thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.